Hey guys, welcome back. It's Missy, and today I thought we would talk about common mistakes that of parents that have undealt with trauma, they haven't done the healing work, they maybe have CPTSD, and how it affects the children and what to do instead. One of the biggest reasons why I wanted to make this video is oftentimes I hear a lot of people that have been through trauma have fear of having children. They think they can't have children because of the trauma. So if you're someone that wants to have kids but you're afraid, this video could help you deal with some of those fears. So that way it will hopefully lessen some of those fears and make you feel empowered that it's okay to have children even if you have some of your own wounds, and how to deal with them and cope with them better and not be worried about the trauma. This is for parents that are maybe making the mistakes now and need some guidance, or for anyone that has grown up with a parent that had undealt with trauma and you want some acknowledgement and some reassurance about what you went through. But before we get into today's video, if you like getting to the root of your issues and learning heal and deal, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And if you want to support me in any way, subscribe to this channel, and please don't forget to like and comment what you think below. And also don't forget to join our Patreon, where you can be a part of the community and have direct access to our Discord, where you can communicate with me and others. You don't want to miss out. Let's get into today's video. So the first common mistake is shielding a child from all pain. When you go through trauma, one of the first things you may think is, okay, I never want my child to ever experience the things that I experienced, so I need to protect them from all types of pain and completely shield them. So you may jump in and not let them, deal with situations, or you won't allow them to be around certain things, and you become overprotective and you jump in and save them constantly. Now, although the thought is nice to be able to shield and protect our children from anything, this completely harms the child because, one, what happens when you're not there? You can't shield them from everything. They're going to eventually have to deal with things, and they're not going to be able to learn how to deal with things in life, and they're not going to be able to gain the tools of how to deal with situations, so they're going to be left feeling handicapped. This then puts them in a very vulnerable position where it can leave them open for unhealthy people to come in and take over and seem like their savior, but really they come in to manipulate and control and harm your child. So it has the opposite effect. So there's that. There's also them becoming dependent on you, which is always unhealthy, having that codependent relationship, because again, what if you're not there? Then what happens? Then they not only will be left handicapped, but you also, when you are jumping in and taking care of them, you're going to eventually have resentment and feel annoyed because they're going to turn 20 and 30 and 40 and they're going to still be calling you up asking you how to handle situations or for you to handle a situation, and you're like, I'm tired, I'm old, I just want to rest. Why can't you handle these things on your own? And so that's never a good situation where your child is not taking things on, so you're doing a disservice to them. By overly trying to protect and guiding your children, you're not letting them learn from their own mistakes. When you don't learn from your own mistakes, then you'll make that mistake time and time again. You don't feel the weight of what you have done, what it's caused, if you always have someone saving you. So let your children learn from their mistakes, and the best way to learn from their mistakes is by making mistakes. And then another reason is that creates narcissistic children to shield them from pain or from bad things, because not only do they not gain the tools, but and they become very selfish and self-revolved, but they lose the ability to empathize with other people because they come in this helpless place of, oh, it's all about me, help me, I can't take care of situations, I need everyone else to attend to me. And you put them in that victim mentality of, I need to be saved, things are always happening to me, come take care of me. So they become very self-revolved and selfish, and they lose that ability to empathize with other people. Which people often think that narcissism always comes from trauma, which it doesn't always come from trauma. It can come from neglect, and a type of neglect. This is a gray area, but I would say a type of neglect is by neglecting your child's ability to gain independence and being able to form their own identity and learn how to deal with problems. So that is another way that a child can become narcissistic. So like if you see someone that has really great parents and they become narcissistic and you don't understand why, it's probably because that parent shielded that child from pain or bad things and always attended to them and made it seem like the world was revolved around them and that they needed to, be attended to at all costs. So what should you do instead? Allow children to experience pain and go through things. And instead of protecting them from experiencing it at all, ask them how they would handle it or how they should handle it and coach them through their uncomfortable feelings. This helps them gain the tools, and also it gives them that empowerment and independence of like, I can handle situations. My parent has my back, because you want to be in the background as the cheerleader rather than the forefront, doing everything for them. You can guide from behind, and by asking them their perspective and how to handle something, that then helps them to be like, oh, I have the answers. And also you can help in, be like, oh, well, what about this? And giving them also ideas. But how do you really know your child will be able to handle things if you don't ask them, how would you handle this in this situation? You'd be surprised by what they would tell you. Now, this is within reason, obviously. Please don't put your children in dangerous situations. Like, that's where the parent's job's to come in to be able to mitigate and be like, okay, this is a situation my child shouldn't be in. Like, for instance, your child being around dangerous dogs. Obviously, you don't try to be like, oh, how would you handle the situation? No, get your child out of there, obviously. But there's other situations, like maybe there's a problem with a friend, or maybe they're feeling sad about a situation, or maybe they're dealing with a lot of negativity, and ask them, how do you think you should handle this situation, or how are you feeling, and let's go through these feelings together and let me be there for you. But not saying like, oh, I'm gonna take it all away, I'm gonna call this person's mom, or I'm gonna do this. Like, we don't need all of that. You're not gonna be able to call their boss when they're 25 years old to tell the boss that they're being mean to them. Like, they gotta learn how to stick up for themselves and do things. I mean, technically you can do that, but that would be an embarrassment for them, for you, and your child most likely would not get a good name across the board when it comes to jobs. So we don't wanna do all of that. The other thing is to with you coping with your emotions, because it's so hard seeing someone you love, especially your child, go through pain. Remember, this is their journey and they need to go through this, and your job as a parent is to coach them and help them be a civilized person in society rather than someone that's always protected and feeling good, because feeling good isn't going to get you through life. Being able to have the tools and being tough is what gets you through life, and dealing with it in a healthy way. So you want your child to be healthy and happy rather than happy and always trying to avoid everything. Which that ties into the next one, which is not knowing how to emotionally regulate. This is very common, especially with CPTSD, of not being able to emotionally regulate, obviously because you've been in so much trauma throughout your childhood and you never felt safe and secure that you didn't learn the ability to be able to emotionally regulate. You had to constantly be in fight or flight and protect yourself. So when you're dysregulated, it's very hard to deal with problems and other people's emotions, especially your child's. So to explain regulating your emotions, it just basically means you being able to cope with your emotions without it taking control over everything, without you needing to always give in to that emotion and reacting explosively, whether that's crying fits, whether that's anger. It's not letting the emotion take over you. When you have trauma, it's hard to do that because that part of your brain wasn't able to develop. It was shrunken because you needed to be in that fight or flight state, and that was activated more. That's where more of your emotions are. Your ability to regulate your emotions was shrunk, and what was heightened was the need to react immediately to situations, which is the emotional part. So a parent that is not able to regulate their emotions, they oftentimes will be in their ego. They may be very defensive. They will be someone that will go on the attack and get very angry and not be able to control themselves. They will get triggered very easily. And those triggers could be just going into crying fits, like I said earlier, where they can't control their tears, or they can't control how to deal with their triggers, and they're just completely very dysregulated. And you never know with this parent what emotion you're going to get or how to deal with their emotions when they're like this, when they're out of control like this. And it doesn't have to be extreme like the way that I'm describing. It could just be a parent where it's like they get triggered and they react emotionally very quickly and they don't contain themselves. So having a parent that's very emotionally dysregulated causes the child to then go into a trauma state where they feel very stressed and they're always trying to read the room and they're always trying to figure out how the parent feels and, you know, how to deal with the parent when they feel that way. And it causes a high stress response. And a lot of parents that struggle with CPTSD or have unhealed trauma, they may not realize that they're doing this, or when they do, they feel immediate remorse and they feel terrible, but they don't know how to get out of it because they don't have the proper tools of how to regulate their emotions. So what to do instead is to learn how to regulate those emotions. So being able to identify triggers. I have videos on identifying triggers and how to deal with triggers, which I will leave right here. It's being able to be very aware of your emotions and letting the emotion out and taking deep breaths. That's so important. That's how you emotionally regulate, to ground yourself using grounding techniques. In order to emotionally regulate, that person has to know, like, I am safe and I don't need to emotionally react this way. And realizing the consequences of emotionally reacting that way and what it does to the people around them and to situations. Because when you don't regulate your emotions, it can cause turmoil and issues in your relationships or with situations where you're not able to do certain things because you don't have a hold of yourself and people can't rely on you or trust you or what have you. Or maybe they'll look at you a little funny because you become the Hulk. So I would say if there's anything that you want to learn to do, emotionally regulate. I think it's one of the most important things that every single person should know how to do, because the way you react to your emotions and your ability to control your emotions will have a huge impact in your life and impact your interactions and the way that you deal with situations. And in a child-parent relationships, it impacts the trust between the two of you, because if you're emotionally irregulated parent, or you have an emotionally irregulated parent, there's that lack of trust and that lack of safety. So when you are emotionally regulated and you create that safety for your child, then it creates peace and it creates an environment for your child to be able to thrive and be able to grow healthily. The next one is projecting your anxiety onto them. So when you have unhealed trauma, there's a high chance that you will have anxiety. And anxiety is basically a hyper-awareness to everything. And the hyper-awareness comes from, not feeling safe and always having to, be hyper-aware and check your surroundings to see what's going on. And so what happens when you're hyper-aware, you then will project that anxiety onto people around you, especially your kids, and make them very nervous and scared of everything. So you then will make them feel scared of everything around them and make them not feel secure in their surroundings. And they'll always have this constant nervous energy and be on high alert. So it's so important that you deal with your own anxiety when you are a parent and learn how to regulate that anxiety, somewhat regulating your emotions, and be very aware when you are projecting those insecurities and that anxiety onto your children, because your children will then, in their nervous system, start to be very alert and very scared of things when they're not in any real danger. It's just the possibility and the fear of things happening. When it comes to kids and they have this constant anxiety, or a parent that has that constant anxiety, it hurts their ability to take risks or be able to mitigate risks appropriately and be able to see, when are situations dangerous and when are they not necessarily dangerous, and maybe just be more alert. So it's not to say that there aren't scary things in the world, because there are scary things in the world. The world's unpredictable. That's terrifying in itself. So it's not to say not to be scared. You don't have to not be scared, but it's more so about helping them feel empowered of being aware of those scary things. Like, so for instance, getting attacked on the street, rather than being like, oh, you're going to get attacked, you got to watch out, blah, blah, blah. Be like, listen, these are the things we can't control that this happens in the world, but these are the things you can do to protect yourself. So that way it's not a matter of being delusional, being like, don't have anxiety, don't fear, it's okay to be scared. There's nothing wrong with being scared. It's just doing it in appropriate doses and being like, okay, you know what, these scary things do happen, and this is what you can do to protect yourself. And it comes from a place of security, and it comes from a place of being safe and protecting themselves, teaching them to protect themselves, rather than always being scared and then feeling helpless and just being on high alert and not being able to live their life in the world. It's just, okay, these are things you do, these are things that maybe you stay away from, and these are things that you can take the risk, and this is, you know, how to protect yourself if, worst case scenario, something does happen. Being able to mitigate that risk again. And there's nothing wrong with anxiety either. We just don't want generalized anxiety where it's constant. It's important to have some sort of anxiety because it does help protect us from bears and things like that. We just want appropriate doses. The next one, which is on the opposite spectrum, which is hide negative emotions from your child. Now, here's the thing. When you have a parent that overly shared their emotions rather, you then will probably want to do the opposite. You either will be similar to your parent, or you'll want to do the opposite, where you never show your emotions to your child, because you know what that felt like of being parentified and constantly having to deal with their dysregulated emotions. But the thing is, both are negative, because when you don't show a child any type of emotions, they think they have to have shame, and they have to also hide their negative emotions, and they shouldn't have, you know, sadness or anger or any type of emotion. They always have to be like happy or content, or, you know, that's where the toxic positivity comes in. The way we learn how to deal with these emotions is watching our parents, not just, you know, hearing what they're saying, but seeing how our parents deal with their emotions. That immediately teaches us how to deal with those emotions. So it's so important that when you're feeling down, because children, they know, they can read situations, they're not dumb. They can feel the energy of when you're off, when you're sad, when something's happening. They maybe don't know the details, but they know something's off with you and you're just hiding it. So they're like, oh, I have to hide these emotions too. Also, because children take things as facts and they cannot reason until the age of 7 or 8, they will think that they're the problem or they're the cause, and they caused you to feel down or whatever it is, because they don't know what's going on. They just know you're negative and they think, oh, I did it. So that's why it's important for you to let your child know when you're feeling down. And obviously you don't overshare, you don't share the detail. Be like, you know, mommy or daddy's having a little bit of a hard day, but don't worry, it has nothing to do with you. I'm gonna be okay. Just want to let you know, so that way you know you had nothing to do with it, and I'm just having a little off day, just like you get sad and sometimes you're having a little off day. So if you see me crying or, you know, whatever, it's just because I'm dealing with a little situation. You get to share how much detail you want. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't share too much. Just let them know something's going on in your life. And this will help them learn how to empathize. It will teach them how to deal with their emotions, and it will help them have a healthy relationship with you and with themselves when it comes to dealing with you with your emotions and dealing with their own emotions. Share what's age appropriate, and if they ever get into that fix it mode or feel like they have to take care of it, say, listen, you don't have to take care of it. You want to maybe watch a movie with me, you want to do a little something with me, we can do that. But you want to give me a little hug, that's okay, but you don't have to take care of it. You know, I got it. I got this handled. And same way with you, with your emotions, I got you too. I got your back. That will definitely teach them to have a healthy relationship with their emotions, rather than stressing about them, you know, dealing with your negative emotions and being scared of dealing with negative emotions. It helps them to have a healthy relationship with uncomfortable emotions. The next thing, which I'll say, it's less common, but it's still common, and you could be completely unaware that you're doing this, but depend on your children for comfort. So children's love is so unconditional, it's so beautiful, and an unhealed parent could rely on that for too much comfort, or rely on that as a source of comfort rather. And so when they're feeling down, they may overly grab their child and want to hug them, which then subconsciously teaches their child oh, I have to take care of mommy or daddy. Or maybe you will look to them for when you're having separation anxiety and you want them to always stay close to you, and you get really nervous when they're away from you, so you look for them to be your comfort, to be next to you. Or maybe I'll use them as a partner and overly share with them, and that is that's a sign of parentification. Generally, an unhealed parent has a lot of insecurity, a lack of trust, all of those things, and then they will use their child as a source of safety and security and looking for them to tell them what to do, and their child may be the only person that they really trust because it's an extension of themselves. And so what's really important as a parent is that you don't use your child as a source of comfort. Like, there needs to be a line where it's like, you are the parent, you're the guide, you're not their friend. You're there to protect them and provide security and safety and to help guide them in life. They're not there for you, you are there for them. It is a one-way relationship. Obviously, there needs to be respect and things like that. It's not like they mistreat you and whatever. I mean, kids do, but you teach them not to mistreat you. But it is one-way relationship where you do majority of things for them, and they do not owe you for it. When you have a child, you take an oath of like, I'm going to self-sacrifice, I'm going to give to this child without expecting anything in return, because you chose to have that child. They didn't choose to come into this world. They didn't ask to come into the world. You brought them into the world, so you take sole responsibility, and you don't ask for anything in return. As a parent, your job is to give, and not all of yourself. Obviously, there needs to be healthy boundaries. Like, they can't hit you and get away with it, and they can't mistreat you, but your job is to clothe them, to protect them, to love them with all that you have, and not for them to do that to you. So these are common mistakes. What do you guys think? Leave it on the comments below, and please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with someone that you think may need it. And please don't forget to join the Patreon. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye, guys. I can't even believe what time it is right now, but I'm still trying to juggle and get a schedule going. Why is it so cold? And why is daylight savings happening this year? I thought we weren't doing it this year. Who called in and said it was okay? Wasn't me. I don't agree to this. Can you like not take part in daylight savings? Wouldn't that be crazy? You'd be so off from the world. On the channel, we get to the root of the issue. We're gonna heal and deal. So this thing goes. I don't remember everything once. What am I trying to say?